Shalom, shalom, shalom. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to a live episode of Faith Walk, the intersection of life and faith. Today is Wednesday, the 28th of August, 2024, and it's a great day to be alive and well. We are so glad to see you this evening and that you're joining us for another great show. Tonight, we're still in our The Black Man series, and tonight our dialogue is about navigating life as a Black man. And we have two special guests who are joining us tonight to talk about their lived experiences as Black men. But before we do, subscribe to the channel. If you're watching via YouTube, like the Facebook page if that's how you're watching, and also like the video and share it. Don't keep all this great and wonderful information to yourself, so you can share it right while we're live, and it'll go right to your page, and therefore people can watch it live or on the replay from your page. But if you choose not to, they can watch it right here on Full Life Communications. But please like and follow and subscribe to the channel depending on how you're watching. It helps the algorithm so our show can get in front of more eyeballs, and that's what we want, so we can expand the show for you. All right, we already have a couple people in the chat. I see Gwen. Hi, Gwen. How are you today? Thank you for joining us this evening, Honey Bunches. Hey, Honey Bunches. Love you. How are you? And Kevin. Hey, Kevin. Good to see you back. And Aisha. Hi, Aisha. Good to see you. Love you. All right. So what I am going to do is I'm going to bring my wonderful co-host up. And you all know who my co-host is. My co-host is Sandra Lee, and that's Sandra Dean Lee. And Sandra, you are on mute, so you have to unmute yourself.
Hey!
How are you, Sandra? You are looking so beautiful tonight. Am I seeing a glow, a makeover, or something?
Yes, you are seeing all of the above. You know, you put out that flyer, and I had my face made up. That was the day that I got my hair cut, so I had my face made up. So I'm like, you got me looking so hot on the flyer. I got to come and do my thing. Plus, the night is a special night. Now, I tell you why. I'm sure you already know. I'm so excited because as you introduced me as Sandra Dean Lee, Dean is my maiden name. And so guess who's on tonight?
Who?
My two brothers. I have four brothers, but two of my brothers are on tonight, and I am super, super excited. My brother, Aaron. Now, here's the thing. His middle name is Aaron. The people who grew up with him in our house call him Aaron. His friends when he in high school call him Alonzo. So we may go back and forth. I'm going to be calling him Aaron. You can call him Alonzo. So my brother Aaron is on, and then my oldest brother Kenny is on. Now, here's the thing. You know how people kind of don't really know how to do the computers so much. So we're going to wait and see if Kenny is going to be able to get on because he's still circling the block trying to figure out how to find this thing. So we're going to see how that happens. But nonetheless, I'm just super excited, Sharon, that my brothers are on today. And we're going to talk about navigating life as a Black man. All right?
Yes.
I'm excited. That's why you see that glow, girl.
Well, you're looking good, Sandra Lee.
You are too. I'm loving the hair. It's beautiful.
Thank you.
Yes. And my family's on.
Yeah, so let's bring up Alonzo right now. And Alonzo, he can introduce himself and share some background information that you care to share with the audience. And welcome to the show, Alonzo.
Well, thank you so much.
Hey, Red.
Hello, big sis. I'm honored to be here. Thank you so much for the invite. Well, again, my name is Alonzo Aaron Dean. My family members call me by my middle name, Aaron, but most folks call me Alonzo. And professionally, everyone calls me Alonzo. But listen, I'm glad to be here. I am married 15 years. Yes, I have.
Yes, we love her. You love your wife. We love her.
Well, thank you. She'll be happy to hear that.
Yes.
I have an awesome son, Alonzo Jr.
Yes, you do.
Yes, I do. Awesome kid, the best. I am a clothier. I own my own business. I'm an entrepreneur. I've been in business now for about 12 years. And, that's a little bit of background about who I am, my family, and what I do.
All right.
Mm-hmm. All right. So Alonzo, since you do have a business, if you care to share your the name of your business, if you have social media contacts via there, because I'm sure there would be people who would love to check out your merchandise and maybe even possibly make a purchase or two.
Absolutely. The name of my business is called Stitch. I'm a custom clothier. I make made to measure and custom clothing for men. So when men need something really special, really nice, one of a kind, personalized items, they come to see me. You could find me on Instagram at The Stitch Story. The Stitch Story. Go on there, check me out. You can see all of the really awesome things that I do. So check it out. Yes.
All right.
Very good. Very good. Thank you for that.
Yes.
So Sandra, do you want to check on Kenny and see? And while you're doing that, Alonzo and I can start the conversation.
Okay, you go ahead. I'm gonna try to check on Kenny.
All right, I'll put you on mute.
Okay.
So Alonzo, I'm going to call you Alonzo. I'm going to let Sandra have the family name. So we want to talk about obviously navigating life as a Black man. Sure. So you've been a Black man your whole life, haven't you?
My whole life that I'm aware of. Yes.
That you're aware of, right?
Aware of. Yes. Yes.
So share some of, let's start with some of the challenges over the years. Hold on, let me mute Sandra again. I think it took it off. There you go. So some of the challenges that you've incurred over the years, and it could be different from when you were younger versus now, or some of the same, but share some of the challenges as specifically as a Black man that you have incurred over the years.
Challenges as a Black man. Well, you know, when we think about being a Black man in America, you know, there's a lot of different challenges that we're faced with. And, you know, the way you sort of approach these problems is really what is going to separate you from someone that just sinks and fails in this country, and someone that can sort of persevere and move forward. That's that question. I thought about the question. You sent me, something that kind of had a few questions that you might be asking, and it took me back to my youth. I think the challenges that I have in my life, they would stem back to growing up and education. There is such a need for education in this country. And I think my challenges have been with maybe not going through fully with my education and having to rely on just real grit and just ambition to just kind of scratch my way through life and be very thoughtful and intentional about the things that I do, just based off of the fact that I'm a high school graduate with a couple of years of college, and I think that that's a challenge. Just not having a better education, kind of setting you up for more success, a little easier pathway in life. So it would stem from there, and from there, that ties into kind of everything that you're dealing with in life.
Okay. Mm-hmm. So you mentioned that you have a son, right?
Yes.
And so in light of the challenges that you just talked about, education, et cetera, how are you trying to, I guess, allow him to have a different experience? We know that parents always want their children to have it easier, right? Than them. So how is it different for him, given your experiences, and now you're a father, and wanting him to not struggle, say, as much as you did?
Yeah, Sharon, it's a totally different world for my son. My son is growing up, living a totally different sort of life than I led. We back when I was coming up, I'm a child of the 70s and 80s. I'm a Generation X, and during that time, you lived in a neighborhood. All of your neighbors were African American. It was everybody sort of lived the same life. Well, my son, we live in a very diverse neighborhood. And when I say diverse, a lot of times people think diversity is black and white. But no, when I say diverse, I mean there's everybody. There's Caucasians. There's a lot of brown people from all over the world, Asia, Middle East, some African Americans. It's just everybody. So just that experience, first of all, just having to compete with everybody up close is how he's sort of getting a different start. I would say that my wife is on him so hard. He is a fantastic student, but it's because he's a straight A student. But that has a lot to do with my wife and the time that she puts in. She, did go to school and get her degree, and it's made a difference in her life. And she is making sure that he He gets his work done, and he turns in his assignment.
Yes.
And listen, they were having some conversation tonight because he had an assignment that didn't get turned in just after yesterday. She said, "Hey, make sure you check everything and make sure everything is turned in." So he said he did that, but then there's some assignment that's not turned in.
Right.
So, but it's something that's very intentional in our household, where it really wasn't in the household that we grew up in.
Right.
Our parents expected us to behave.
That's it. That's it.
The bar. That's to behave in school.
That's right.
Right. So the bar, as long as you're behaving and not getting any trouble,
I told you. Yep.
You're good.
You know, Aaron, let me jump in.
Yes.
I was telling Sharon, you know, you just said the same thing. As long as you did not cut up and embarrass mama,
yes,
you could really have some C's. If you want to slide a D in, that's fine. But if they don't ever call your name that you cut up,
yes,
you good. You know, you were good. So it wasn't like education was pushed, not from, you know, mom, but I was telling you about my aunt, which was the one that was the assistant vice chancellor of A&T, my alma mater. She was the pusher when it come to education, you know. So mama, just make sure you be a good little girl, good little boy, you're doing good.
that's what it was. And you know, in all honesty, Sharon, that's just simply not enough. That won't cut it. And I think that my siblings have done well given the education that they have had.
Right.
So we are hardworking people, and we strive to succeed. But it is based off of that upbringing and just needing to do the right thing. So we stay on the we stay on the right track. So you end up, everything works out. But gosh, I don't think that works today. I think the skills needed with the way technology is and the fact that there are not the same kinds of jobs available now that were available when I was growing up. There was a lot of manufacturing jobs. I remember working for a company that made foam. It was, you know, and that was, you know, I'm in the, you know, grew up in the South and here in North Carolina. There was a lot of meals and a lot of work to do that paid above the median income. So there was opportunity. Well, those opportunities really don't present themselves the same way anymore. So, you know, we're on him, Sharon. We are on him. He is going to get his education, and he's going to strive, and he'll be prepared. We want to make sure he's prepared for life.
Right.
Modern life.
Right.
Yes.
Modern life.
Right.
And the thing is, that's so necessary for parents, and especially, as you know, given, you know, especially our society today, but just because that's how it's supposed to be, you know, God put man and woman together to, you know, create this family, right? And so to create the strong guest family, you need to have that male presence in the home, not just the female presence, right? And that also brings the balance to the family, right? Because men bring something to the table different than women, and vice versa. You know, we've all challenges and strengths. And so your son has the best advantage, you know, that he can by having, you know, both parents in the home and challenging him to his best.
Yes.
Right? But, you know, left to our own devices, we might not challenge ourselves to our best, right?
He wouldn't be a straight A student on his own. I can promise you that. It is the work. It is the work that my wife is putting in to make sure that he stays on top of his work. Now, in my house, Sharon, we defer to one another. Whoever has the best skill set to deal with a thing, that's who deals with that thing. So, you know, she's an intelligent, educated woman, and I put that in her hands. I try to support where I can, but that is something that she believes so strongly in. And I'm gonna tell you what, she doesn't play. She does not.
We have a comment here from Gwen. Gwen says parents need to go back to checking the conduct. Yes.
Right.
Conduct is out of control in these modern times, shall I say.
Yes.
And actually, you know, truth be told, I mean, I can't say statistics on this, but the conduct and the education is slipping.
Yes.
You know, there's a lot of young people. We're going to specifically talk about Black people, but it's with all races, right? Dropping out of school, you know, and then dropping out of school, you're limited with what type of job you can get.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And then especially you're dropping out really early, not even like 11th grade. You know, there's some young people dropping out at 8th grade and you know, just the lower grades. And now they're really putting themselves behind the 8 ball with what they can do to make money. So what happens after that? I turn to the streets to make money.
Yes,
right.
And that's short.
Profession, right? That's just not really going to be healthy for me. Let's just put it that way. You know,
that's short-lived. Yeah, that's a short-lived approach at life. You're not gonna be around a long time if you're in the streets. That just doesn't work.
Exactly. And it's going to affect your mental health, right? And it's going to affect your physical health. We know what happens in the street, right? And so now, you know, bad things can happen anywhere, but when you put yourself in a situation, the likelihood, you know, the possibility rises, right, for something to happen. So, and we see it every day on the news, unfortunately. So, kudos to you and your wife, you know, for fighting the good fight.
we are definitely fighting the good fight, Sharon, for sure.
Sharon, let me ask you a question. Excuse me.
Yes.
There is a problem. Ken is trying to get on. He said he don't have any sound. Do you see him in the studio?
No, he's not in the studio yet.
Okay. All right. So we're still trying to maneuver this. So if you see me looking down,
okay, you want me to remove you? You want me to remove you so you can talk to him?
Well, now I'm gonna mute myself because I want to still be up here.
All right, I'll mute you. Sandra, you are too funny. I
don't want to miss his face. Okay.
Oh, wait. I'm sorry. I muted you. Say that again.
See myself. Can you see me?
Oh, okay. Never mind. Let me do that again. I'm muting. Okay. So Alonzo, let's talk about now some of the challenges. Let's talk about some of, as you were growing up, the strengths that you see now. That's, you know, looking back. Because when you're younger, you know, you don't see the full picture, right? But now looking back, what are some of the things that helped, I guess, you become the man that you are? So therefore, they were strengths right then, whether you recognize them then or not, but know them now, as well as, you know, as you aged in life.
Yes. You know, for me, it's definitely, I was one of the fortunate people who had a father and a mother in the house as long as they were both, you know, alive. My father is no longer with us, but he was in the home. That's a huge advantage because I had an opportunity to see what a man's role looks like, what being a provider and a protector looks like. So I really do think that's my advantage. That's the strength that comes from having that father. I don't know, you know, certainly what I would be without that example. And when I look at some of my acquaintances and friends who didn't really have that father figure, a lot of times there's certain issues, that very serious issues that come along with having to sort of figure it out on your own, so to speak, that masculinity portion on your own. So that's the strength. It's having Alonzo Dean, my father, in my life and in our home. Also man, hard working man, quiet, you know, didn't say a whole lot. So you'd have to pick up on his example, because he didn't necessarily teach a lot of verbal lessons. At least he didn't to me per se. But you just watch him. You watch him do his thing, and you watch him a kind, peaceful man. Actually, never heard my mother and father get into a back and forth argument. I don't recall a back and forth argument ever. Maybe when Sandra comes back on, and I think my sister Gwen might be in the watching. She might be able to, shed some light on whether or not there were any back and forth sort of arguments between my parents, but I never saw that. So I don't know if that's realistic, that relationships operate that way, but that was a different time. We're going back. Times were different, and so that was my experience. So I think that shaped me to be who I am. I really think that's it. Yes,
it really does make a difference. So and then you're setting generational, positive, healthy generational patterns, right?
Yes, right.
Your mom and dad, you and your wife, right? And then prayerfully, as your son ages, him and his wife, and that's how we pass it on.
Right.
And that how we build healthy communities.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
So your sister does have a comment to what you said. She says, Gwen says, no arguing at all. So she saw what you saw.
She saw what I saw. Again, I don't think that that's realistic. Even goal to even shoot for a goal, that's not realistic. I don't think, but that's the way it was for them,
right?
In their relationship.
You know, right. Sharon, if I could, I don't. Kenneth may not be able to get on. He said that he can't hear anything. He sees himself in the studio, but he can't hear us.
Yeah, so I don't see him in the studio at all.
He needs to have some teenager with him to help him navigate. So he may be on and he may not. But if he don't come on this show, maybe we can bring him back with somebody else that can help him get in. But I heard you say, like arguing back and forth. The thing of it is this: the only thing that Daddy would argue about is why my mother took his chair, because he'd have a comfortable chair that he would come home from work and sit in, and then she would give it away if somebody needed something. He would say, Ruby, why did you give away my chair? Well, Alonzo, because so-and-so needed it. And that's it. But as far as that back and forth argument, we really didn't have it. And that may sound like a lie, but it actually, that's kind of how it was. My father, of course, worked 2 jobs all of his life, except for when he had knee surgery, which was the latter years. But he worked 2 jobs. So, but when he was home, they just didn't argue.
No.
Yeah, that is not reality. I don't know how they were able to do it, but you just didn't grow up with a lot of fussing and fighting and cussing. Please, there was never any cussing, because Jesus was on the main line every night. Listen, that's all we knew. Okay,
but Sandra, that's a challenge, because when in my marriage, if an argument comes up, I really don't want to have it. It's not. I'm not accustomed to it.
Right.
So I really try to resist arguments the very best I can. I just, again, because I didn't see it in my mind, it shouldn't have to come to an argument. But I don't think that's realistic.
It's not.
Right, exactly. But in my mind, it's like, we really don't need to argue about this. We should be able to just discuss it calmly as adults and get work through this.
Right. So that's true, Aaron. But
it's a challenge.
I didn't grow up with that either, but I know how to argue pretty good. Yeah,
absolutely. Well, listen, it's a challenge for me.
Right.
Challenge for me to argue. I just don't like to do it.
Right. You're definitely like Daddy. You are definitely like Daddy. Sharon, all of the sons are like my father, very mild, low key. They're which is funny because my mother's very mild and quiet. So I don't even know how I ended up being the way I am, loud.
We think she's adopted, Sharon. We think Sandra was a mix up at the hospital.
Yes. Why for the fact that I look so much like my brothers and sisters? Like, that's the thing. But Aaron, let me ask you this. Every time you cut the television on, right, you see some situation where it didn't go too well with a person of color being pulled over, and then you got the situation where it goes out of hand, and then somebody normally ends up dying. You know what I'm saying? Right. How have you navigated through situations where the law is involved, or because you do have your shop downtown Greensboro, right? And it is kind of the affluent section, and you are a black man with this beautiful shop with the best clothes you ever seen, and you're
all true.
All the folks that walk in that shop, Sharon, man, it is, when I say top of the line. So Aaron's getting folks that got more than $2, right? But how do you, because I know that it has to be some prejudice, because we live in the South, right? Well, I say we, because I'm always going to be a part of Greensboro. But how do you, navigate through, with the racial tension, and you're right there in the heart of it. This is this black man with this successful business, shop as attack. How do you navigate that without having to, go into, one of them sections?
One of those sections. Sandra, for me, the way I present, I think, in public, I'm just a real well-dressed. That's my business.
That's your business.
When I'm at work, when I'm in the district, I'm presenting extremely well. So that's a nonverbal communication to people, the way you look. Right. So I really don't run into excuse me, got a gnat flying around. My wife is a gardener. She's brought a lot of vegetables in the home, and she brought a few gnats in with her. But I get a lot of respect when I go places. It just based off of the way that I present professionally. I mean, Sandra, sometimes I'll go into a place, and this is funny, and this is true. I'll go into a place where people are in line. I'll come in, and people will start moving out of the way as if I'm supposed to get in front of them.
Favor ain't fair. Favor ain't fair.
It's strange, but you don't usually see men dress quite to the point of where I am these days.
I'm telling you, he's sharp. He's sharp as a tack. You seen it.
It's unusual. So those are some of the benefits that come with just presenting yourself a certain way. And I recommend that for African-American men. Please present yourself well-groomed, neatly dressed, and it'll go far. It really goes far. Now, in terms of you mentioned, the things that happen sometimes when you get pulled over.
Right.
There's nothing you can do in some of those situations, Sandra, because sometimes people didn't even do anything wrong. They didn't even have a chance to do anything wrong, just by the fear that some people have of African-American people. Right. They just will jump the gun, literally jump the gun, and you haven't even had a chance to do all the right things yet. You know what I'm saying? So there's not a lot, we all know the things that we should do. Right. Be professional, would be respectful when you're speaking to anyone. Right. But that may not be enough sometimes when people just fear you for no reason at all.
Have you had any situations where with the police pulling you over for any reason, and there was ever any backlash or anything like that?
No, I really haven't had just by sheer circumstance or luck. I just haven't had. But the problem is that could change tomorrow. Right. And I could be in a situation where I don't have an opportunity to even do right because it's already escalated before I even have a chance to even do right. So, to this point, I haven't had any issue, but it lurks, around the corner. Right. But I haven't had an issue.
And because you have a son, have you I'm sure you have, but just, for the sake of asking the question, have you had that conversation? Because, he does go to a mixed school, right?
Yes.
But have you had a conversation like, if you ever, have someone come up to you, you got to be respectful. What do you do? Because what frightens me now is just because it's so trigger happy is what you see all the times. And even if a person is not doing anything, you see 2 or 3 young Black guys just standing there talking and having a good time. It can change really quick because there's an intimidation factor, and we haven't even done anything. But sometimes, and this is not all the time, so let me just say this is not all the time, but there are a lot of times when people are intimidated by people of color. So they automatically would see them in a certain way, even if they're not getting aggressive, So, but I just want to know, like, what have you said to him to kind of prepare him for that?
Yeah, he's not driving just yet. But we have conversations about history. My son loves history.
Okay.
And we talk about, civil rights, that movement, and how that has progressed to where we are today.
Okay.
Or the 2 steps forward with race relations and the 1 step back with race relations that we sort of always go through. So we've had those kind of conversations. He's well aware of the fact that that he's an African-American boy, and that means something to some people. So he's aware of it. I haven't had the conversation about the driving conversation.
Right. Okay.
He's not of driving just yet. That conversation is coming.
Yeah.
Definitely he is, again, he's an intelligent guy, and we keep him, we keep him in the loop, in the conversation when it comes to race. We don't try to hide race. But here's the thing, Sandra, that I'm very conscious of this.
Okay.
I don't want to tell him things that were true in my life 30, 40 years ago that really might not apply to what's going on today.
Okay.
And that's to me, that's very important, because it's some things can be old thinking.
Okay.
And some things are not that they aren't true, but they might not be true to the degree it was when I was in his situation or I was his age.
Right.
So
Right.
I always think about, hey, don't present it to him as if it's 1983.
Gotcha.
You understand what I'm saying?
I do understand. Yeah.
We have evolved racially. We got so much further to go, and we're taking steps currently because of politics. We're taking steps back in the wrong directions in terms of race relations.
Right.
But we have evolved some. So I try to just be mindful of the fact. I try to be a modern person. I'm 56 years old, but I try to be modern in my thinking.
Okay.
It helps me in my career. It helps me to stay fresh when it comes to, designing clothes for people. I have to always be modern in my thought process. It doesn't mean you ignore or try not to see the reality, but you also understand that my reality is not his reality. Again, as I mentioned before, he's growing up totally different than the way I grew up.
That's right.
His friend group looks totally different from my friend group.
Right.
His life experiences are much more vast. He's much better of a well-rounded person than I am and was at that point in his life. So his upbringing is just totally different. And things are different.
Right.
Things are different. Got a long way to go, but things are not as they were.
Right. All right, Aaron. Now listen, because I know
Sandra,
that
before you move on, we have some questions I want to comments.
All right, go ahead. Beautiful.
So Honey Bunches is sharing that he's telling the truth. Talking about Alonzo's telling the truth. I've never seen him looking crazy, not a wrinkle in sight.
That's right. That's right.
And Amira says, "Hey, Uncle Aaron."
Hello. What's up?
Now, Honey Bunches has a comment from what we were talking about before. Oh, no, that's the same one I put in. Sorry about that. Netta says, any disagreements when we were talking about, parents and how your parents didn't argue, any disagreement should not be in front of the children. Netta, that's my mom, Alonzo.
Oh, okay. Hello, Netta.
My parents, they had arguments, but I could count them probably on one hand.
Yeah.
So if they had it behind closed doors, it must not have been that much, because probably would have hurt. So and I guess it might have been, like you said, the couple, right? And also too, maybe the times, right? People just did things differently before. Let's see, there's another comment from Honey Bunches. I can relate. I hate arguing with people too. It's so extra.
It really is. I mean,
there was a lot of practice at the house. Yes.
Wow.
Now here's a long comment from Netta, my mom. So let's see. Sometimes her text game is not that great because it changes. She does it through the voice. So let's see what she says here. When my husband and I were teenagers, 16 and 17, he was pulled over by the cops just because he was Black and driving. He was pulled over for no other reason, and the head, I'm not sure, and put his hand on the hood of the car and asked him whether he stole the car. But of course the car was his, but that was in the 50s.
Right.
Yeah.
I think I remember that story.
Yeah, and even, my dad passed away 10 years ago, and so that was in the 50s, even when my brother and my father, to say my father was he was 70 something when he passed. So for even the last 20 years of his life, him and my brother's 5 years older than me, so my brother's 65, would get pulled over just because of the cars they drove in this development that we live in. Right. And so they, thank God, walked away with no issue, but they were only stopped because of the car they drove. They weren't given tickets. They weren't, nothing. So, a Black man driving a nice car, you know what it is, driving while Black, right?
Yeah, that is awful that happens. That something that was happening in the 1950s still can happen today, and still does happen today. It's disgraceful and it's awful. is. It really is. On that story, in terms of getting pulled over, I got a somewhat funny story to tell. When back when I was a teenager, hadn't been driving very long, I had my mama in the car with me driving. We were pulling back into the neighborhood and the police pulled us over. Well, the police comes up to the car and, he comes up to the car and he's asking a couple of questions and I'm, everything is very cordial. My mom is like, why did you pull him over? He wasn't doing anything. Why are you stopping us? And I'm looking at mama like, okay, just chill out. I mean, what? Everything is cool. We don't as of yet, we don't have a problem. Right. And the reason that this is so funny, Sharon, if you knew my mama, I mean, she is very, very mild mannered, but she was not vibing with this police officer pulling us over. It just didn't compute. She needed to understand why are we being pulled over, and I'm just trying to chill. Everything is, So that was a crazy, and it's just very funny when I think back on it. How my tiny little mother, mild mannered, she was not having it. She wasn't having it.
So we have another comment from Aisha, which is hilarious. Aisha says, I like what Uncle Aaron said about modern thinking. Mama, who is Sandra Lee, raised us with the fear of 1983.
Right. Absolutely. Yes. You have to fight that urge. You have to fight the urge to.
I didn't fight it good.
You got to fight the urge to try to think that everything is as it was 30 years ago. You got to fight that urge, and it naturally wants to pop in there, but you got to fight it. Now let me tell you this other story. Since we're getting into it now, this is something that just happened, and this will tell you how things really are and how you really do have to deal. So just this past Sunday, my son comes into the room. He says, "Hey, Dad, I was invited to a pool gathering at the pool. Can I go to the pool with some of my friends?" I'm like, "Sure." My son, like I told you, he works hard. I'm trying to make sure that he has his outlets to blow off some steam. He's studying around the clock these days. So I'm like, "Great, we'll do that." So that's cool. Everything's good. So when the time comes, we go to the pool and we're to meet his friends there at the pool at 1:00. Now, when I pull into the place, I said, okay, this is a private organization. This is a members only kind of a situation. And I'm like, let me make sure that we connect with his friends because I don't want to have any issues because we're not members here. So we get there, his friends aren't there. So right away, I'm looking around. I'm only seeing Caucasians going into the place, kind of middle and upper middle class Caucasians going into the pool. And I'm looking down on the pool. I don't see any brown or black folks in the pool. Like I said, well, we're going to wait until your friend gets here. Reach out to your friend, find out where they are. Now, my anxiety is going up because of the situation.
Right.
Because I know it's a private pool, I just don't want to have any issue, right? And this is the reality. These are some of the realities I think you're trying to get to that you do have to do.
Right.
So he calls his friend. His friend says, "Oh, we're leaving here. We're going to be there in about 20 minutes." I'm like, "Oh no, I'm just going to be sitting here for 20 minutes because I'm not getting ready to go up here."
Right.
This is, if Karens are real, this is the population that they heavily populate. This particular population. If it's real. If we can debate whether Karens are real or not, but this is where they were. Okay.
Exactly.
So my wife calls and she says, "Hey, can you stop off by the grocery store when you come home, on your way home?" I said, "Well, let me do that now. Let me go to the grocery store because since his friends aren't here, when we get back, okay, then maybe they'll be here and everything will be fine." Well, when we did get back, it sent him on in there and I figured out how they were related to this particular club because I want to know, did they even know that you have to be members? Right. See, you just don't know. Sometimes you don't ask enough questions up front. This is my kind of routine, lazy, laid back Sunday. I haven't asked enough questions and now I'm here faced with this situation. Now I need some answers. And of course, he don't have any answers, of course. So, and I'm not letting it on to him that I'm having this real stressful situation in my mind, because I don't want him to go to this pool and somebody say something to him out of place, because he is going to stand out when he goes to this pool.
Right.
So it all ended up working out. But I mean, I was so stressed by the situation over that time period. I think I gave myself a headache.
Oh, no.
I really didn't feel that good the rest of Sunday. I just felt off. And it's just because I didn't want him to be put in a situation where somebody comes up, because, you know, when you think about rules, the rules are definitely there for us. That's when you're talking about a rule being, you want somebody to obey a rule, they want us obeying the rules
first.
Yes.
So I'm like, okay, let's make sure we know what we're getting into. So this is, I think, kind of what you're talking about, Sharon, when you think about the challenges that you have. This didn't turn out to be a problem at all, but I had to spend my energy worrying about it and thinking about it. And that's really makes me angry that I even had to think about that and stress over that and sit there and wait until these other people got here so I could understand what is their connection to this place.
Right. So Aaron, the question comes from your story that you just told. And so let's hypothesize your son was of driving age and you didn't have to drive him, right? Yes. And the same scenario presented itself. Now, with your rearing of him and trying to balance, parenting from 1983, right? Parenting from 2024, but still letting him know that possibilities exist. It may never, ever happen to him, but the possibility does exist. So do you think he would have been prepared for that situation had you not been there? Or would he have just, I'm going in, my friends aren't here, I'll just go in and wait and go and jump in the pool, and because he's not even thinking, or wouldn't he be thinking like, wait a minute, nah, this looks suspect, I'm going to wait for my friends. So how do you think he would have navigated that situation had he been of driving age and he drove himself there?
Yeah, well, I would have to answer that two ways. If I'm looking at my son today, he would have just gone right in there. If I'm looking at my son at driving age, there's going to be enough conversations and enough information where I'm not sure exactly what he would do at that time. Okay. Because he's going to certainly have all the information laid out in front of him. And I'm going to try to lay it out in a factual way, not a biased way and not an old thinking way, but in a way that's actually factual, because we can look at statistics and we can actually see who gets treated like what. And these things are not hard to understand. Unfortunately, the facts are there. So, given what he will be prepared for at that time when he's of driving age, I can't say what he would do, but he would have the information.
Okay.
The pertinent information for that fits that situation.
Right. So if it was walking distance and he went today, then he would have gone in and wouldn't have the mindset that you had, because he's not as aware at this point.
Well, I wouldn't call it he's growing up in a very diverse neighborhood. That makes all the difference in the world. He's very comfortable around different types of people. And again, his friend group is a diverse group of people. So it's not that he would be unaware, he would just be comfortable. Okay. And that degree of comfort, it could be fine if it's a public pool, but if it's a private pool, you see how that one little difference makes the difference, right?
Yeah.
But he would be comfortable in moving around in that space. Whereas, my sister and my siblings, we would be maybe less comfortable because we're from a different generation, and we edit ourselves slightly differently because of our experiences, what we've seen that were closer to our life. Some of the horrific murders and assassinations from the civil rights movement.
Mm-hmm.
I was born in 1968. The 60s America was on fire, and that's very close to my age range. I missed it. I was not conscious of that because of the age I was when that was going on, but it is close. So I knew about it. I eventually knew about it when it was time for me to understand it. So it's such a different set of circumstances for him, and the way he's growing up, and just the comfort that he has with different people, different kinds of people.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
I wanted to say that I'm glad that you are different and not raising him back in 1987 because I didn't do that. I raised my girls to be afraid of everything, and so they will say that I messed them up, because even we used to ride our bicycles basically in the yard because my mother was so protective that you didn't go outside the yard for real. So I learned how to ride my bicycle in the yard. Okay, correct. And when she was gone to church, then we might go in the street. It's hard to ride roller skates in the yard. We learned
you started to ride roller skates on grass. And gravel. And that's very difficult, but you'd have to master how to do it because that's the only place you want to be able to do it. And Sandra, I'm actually very protective. That's in my nature to be that way. Right. My wife helps me some to moderate that to some degree. Right. But that's my natural stance. So I do a lot of self-reflection, and I look at myself and say, what do I need to edit? Okay. What about me is just not current? Oh, okay. Oh, wow. What about me is just not really seeing things as they really are? Now you have to think about it this way, Sandra. You had your children a lot earlier than I had mine. Right. That's true. You were younger, so your personal development was at that stage at a younger stage. Right. You had them before I had them. I'm late. Right. I was late with Zoe. I was about 42 when I had my son. That's a late start. I mean, I should know something by 42. Right. Right. You know what I mean? I should be trying to better myself at 42. Right. Right. You know what I mean? So so don't beat up on yourself. I mean, it's just we were at different stages in our life when we started having children. Yeah, I don't have to beat up myself. My children do that for me. Yes. Well, it's all in love. Tell them girls that it's all in love.
Speaking of your children, one of your children, Aisha, says, "Thank goodness we had that patch of lawn. Otherwise, we have never been able to play outside."
She said, "Patch of lawn." That might be like a 5x5. Oh my God. That's so funny, but that is so true. That is so true. Now, Aaron, I was going to ask you before. Now, because you have the business that you do, and with your son being into different things, what do you do for self-care? How does Aaron take care? Oh man, Sandra, I work out. Okay. I go to the gym and I work out. That's my thing to kind of unwind. I just like to try to stay in shape. Being in the business that I'm in, I have to be able to fit in these tailor-made clothes. Right. So that keeps you really honest. Gotcha. Because when you start gaining a little weight, things start getting tight pretty quick because it's all fitted. That keeps me honest. So I work out, and that's kind of my self-care. Okay. And just I'm a peace-loving person. As long as I can just chill and kind of have a few minutes sometimes. I'm upstairs here in my little, we're going to call it your man room or man cave, whatever you want to call it. But just having some time to just be with myself. Right. That's so important because it's so important. A lot of men, they don't take time for self-care. And so they're constantly stressed, constantly in a mood, when women are not the only ones that need self-care. Men also need self-care because working constantly, and especially as a Black man, stress. And you wonder why they're dying so early from heart attacks.
they have to have some outlet.
Yes.
You know, and so with that being stated, because you're sitting in the presence of Dr. Thomas, how do you feel about therapy? Sharon is a therapist. And so, you know, we grew up thinking that therapy was bad. At least Black people were like, you ain't gonna put me on no couch and tell me you want to talk to me. Something's up with that. You know, Black people was really funny about therapy, right?
Right.
So how do you feel about that? I'm gonna say that working with mental health, I'm for therapy. I have a totally different mindset about it than I did growing up. But because I see and I'm in the industry and know a lot of therapists, Sharon being one of them, I have a different view. I have a different respect. And so how do you feel about that?
I believe in it 1000%, because what's going on now is that people are unable to maintain their friendships like we did when we were younger. You know, our lives are very busy. Most modern men try to be very involved in their family and in the raising of their kids. So they're not going to be out at the bar every Tuesday, Wednesday night or some type of foolishness like that. We're trying to be involved in raising our kids. So we don't have those friend groups or those close friend relationships. So therapy sounds like a fantastic. And I have friends that do take you go through therapy, and they're benefiting from it greatly. So no, I believe in it 100%. I mean, to me, you should always be trying to better yourself in some way. It should always be an effort to be a better version of yourself.
Right. Exactly. Hey, you said all the right things on that. Hey, Sharon, pass that test.
And that one was off the cuff.
Listen, it was gonna be a problem if you said, you know, I don't like therapy. We'd be like, put this mic down.
No, I mean, it's great. You know, it's fantastic. I mean, people need it. People need someone that they can be truthful with, someone that they can sort of let down the guard, because they're not, you know, there's not that relationship that's going to be damaged if they tell them about this problem they have or this shortcoming that they believe that they have. I think it's great. I really do.
I want to just kind of send a message here. Kenny had texted me and said he was so sorry that he couldn't be on because he just could never get it connected. So, you know, maybe another time when we got somebody young enough to know how to tell Kenny how to work it, we'll have Kenny coming back. Maybe Kenny, maybe I get a couple of my other brothers on again, maybe in a future show. So he just wanted to.
And Sandra, tell Kenny that he's not the only one. We have Ayana, your daughter, who helps us.
Oh my goodness! Oh,
no, she didn't put me up there. Aaron, I was struggling.
She's helped me too.
Yes. So no. Listen, Sandra. When we were speaking yesterday, I said you need to check with Kenny.
You said
make sure he can get. I said check with him. Make sure he's got Chrome or whatever he needs.
You said that,
get onto this. I did. Because I knew that it was a possibility. You know, I'm saying I knew there was a possibility.
Right.
I knew there was a possibility because Kenny had a flip phone up until yesterday. So we're not gonna act like that's not true. Okay, so there was a possibility. There was a chance that there might be a problem.
Aaron, that is so funny and it's so true.
Is that true? Is that true?
So listen, flip phones are so old that they're, you know how everything comes back, that the talk about bringing it back. So he wouldn't even have to get a new.
That's right. I'm talking about it's been gone long enough to bring it back, but he still got the original.
Right.
Yeah, that's the vintage that we don't want.
That's right. Well, one of the problems was he didn't have. I don't think he had Facebook or
or anything else needed to do anything. He didn't have anything needed to do anything. Yes, that's why I said give him a call and find out if he has anything needed to do anything.
Right.
Okay.
So Sharon, next time we're gonna do better and get it right. Okay.
Now listen. Now let me be transparent. When I got home today, I got with my wife, the brains of the house. I said, now let's get this computer up. Let's make sure we're getting on Chrome. Let's be ready to go. So I got my in-house IT
Right.
person. Okay, so I'm not gonna get too far out there ahead of myself, but at the same time, I knew I was gonna do the things I needed to do to make sure I was
right.
Yeah.
Well, Kenny said, I said, Kenny, do you have anybody that can help you? He said, yeah, mama. My mama's
Oh, what?
and she still got a house phone, okay?
What?
That's all this day. You ain't got no name. Can anybody come help my brother?
Oh my goodness.
Yes.
It's hilarious.
Oh, I saw it coming.
We have another comment from Netta. Relating back to what we were talking about earlier. She's saying this is so true because when I was born in 1939, I was so afraid for my grandson, and her grandson is probably like 32 right now. When he stood up to the police right in their face and asked them, I'm kind of putting this together for her, what they were doing or whatever, because this is when George Floyd was murdered and he went to one of the protests. She's calling it riots, but it was a protest. Okay, there's a difference. And this made him go to law school, and his expertise is civil rights, his specialty now, civil rights, and he just graduated this year in May as a lawyer. So awesome. But yeah, and he got up in the cop's face. He's one of them. It's just like, not in 2020, not that went no. But I mean, obviously it worked out.
Yes.
But,
yes.
He wasn't doing anything wrong. It was a peaceful protest. But you know how that can go, right?
Yes, it can go south.
So every time he would go, she would just be, I would be nervous too, like, do you have to go? Like, I know you have to go and represent. Then I'm like, oh my God, Lord, just please protect him. You know what I mean? Because
yes.
Dang, you don't know.
You don't know.
Yeah.
Now, one thing is,
you don't know. So.
Well, at least during those protests, you know that there's a lot of cameras around.
Right.
And with that sort of tends to keep people a little bit more honest, because they know what they do, particularly at a time like that, and the reason that people were protesting. They certainly didn't want to reenact the reason that they were there in the first place. So that gives you a little bit of at least knowledge that if something does go wrong, at least I'll have witnesses.
Right.
Exactly. To it. So wow.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Well, see, Aaron, I would beg my children, please don't go.
Right.
I would give them the reason why, or they're gonna be chasing you down. I would scare them up real good.
Yes. and I would too. Like Sandra, that's my first go-to.
Right.
Exactly. My go-to is the same go-to that you have.
Right.
That's my inclination to do that, but I'm willing to perhaps talk it out with the wife, and if she got some opinion about it, we might be able to come to a decision. Right. But that is my default. My default is not different from yours.
Okay.
Yeah, I just don't always act on it.
Right.
Yeah. It's such a balancing act, because as Black, this is obviously just my opinion, as Black folks, protesting has been peaceful, protesting, marching, etc., has been one of our go-tos to affect change. And we have so many other ways to do it now, plus that way to affect change, that I'm not saying it's not helpful, because I do believe it is. But of course, I think it was more helpful back, in the 60s or whenever, just because we didn't have as many avenues then.
Right.
So that was the major avenue. Yes. So, but because of, we see what happens even when there is no protest, just being Black, right? And so the line, it's like, well, how do you draw the line? Because I want protests to happen, peaceful protests to happen. And if I were probably young today with the mindset that I have, I probably would be there as well. But I consider myself an activist, but I do my activism through social media, through my shows. I have a show called Race Matters. It's not on right now, but and news show and things like that, where I lend my voice and others who host the show with me about racial issues and educating people about it and what's going on in our community, et cetera, and voting and getting involved. So that's how I take my activism to the social media streets, right? Of course, at this age, I'm not walking in anybody's streets. I'm not even walking in the supermarket streets. Okay, so let alone a protest street. So, right.
You door dashing, huh?
Right. But when I was younger, I went to the Million Women March. I mean, I went to stuff, but it was a different stay then, right?
Right.
But like I said, if I was in my 20s, probably today, I probably would still go. But so I think that we can help young people with, okay, there are other avenues that we have other than marching. Not saying that you shouldn't, it's not a good idea. But hey, maybe you can lend your voice on a social media platform,
Yes.
and build up a community there, or some other, in a political way, running for city council, or state office or national office, right? There's a lot of different things that we can do now to get involved to affect change, and not just protesting, although protesting has its place.
Yes.
So educating our young people to the many different ways that we could have a voice to affect change, especially by voting.
Right.
And so speaking of that, one last question, Aaron, how do you think, or what do you think is specifically, say, the Black man, what can Black men do, say, more to help our Black community in the political arena, just as a community with, the gun violence, the murders, the drug dealing, everything that we know. And I don't know the specific, community that you live in or at large where you live, but how is it that Black men specifically can come together or do something to help our own community?
Well, you land a heavy question down on me here as the last question, huh?
Well, we can do a part. We can do a part two.
That's that one.
Well, yeah, that's a hot topic right there. I mean, I think if we really knew the answers to that, Sharon, we could really be something.
Yeah.
I think if we really knew the answers to that. I have to go back to the family structure.
Yeah.
That if you can maintain a family structure, that'll set things off, at least going in the right direction. You have values, things that you're responsible for that you don't want to lose, things that you want to help to build and grow. Having responsibility, help that will help you to sort of stay on track. But that is, that's a heavy question with a lot of moving parts to it. It really is. But for me, it is. I don't know how to be any other way, Sharon.
Right,
this is just the way I was raised, and this is how I'm gonna raise my child, and try and, of course, better do it. I'm gonna try to do it even better. But it starts it's at a family level. That's kind of where it starts.
Yeah.
Even if it's an uncle or an aunt or some distant cousin that can be a role model, if they can do that to let's say to their niece or nephew that's coming up in a single parent home, or just maybe they've just left the house and they're just on the streets, whatever it is. Your family members, those are the ones closest to you. Those are the ones that really have true love for you. It's got to probably start right there.
Right.
Okay.
I agree. It does start with the family, and having hopefully an intact family when you have the presence of a male, right? Father, the husband, and because it makes a huge difference. Research shows God created that order. It is how it's supposed to be in order to affect the best possible outcome. Right.
Well, Sharon, let me ask you this, Sharon. Have you seen or read statistics that sort of go against the view that there's this belief that Black men are just completely uninvolved in their families? And I've seen statistics to say that that's really not the case. When you compare them to other demographics, Black men are involved. So there may be more involvement there than we're getting credit for. I think that, in terms of the way we're looked at, and the way that were talked about, sometimes it's not exact. We can't dispute statistics, but there's also this maybe idea that may not be exactly lining up with the statistic.
Right. Most of what we hear and that gets notarized is the negativity.
Right.
Right. And so, of course, in media, which is where we get, this information from, all throughout history, Black people have been demonized, whether it's on a TV show, a movie, in the community, it's always we're negative in some form or fashion. But we know that is really not who we all are. Are there rotten apples in every bunch?
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Don't quote me on this, and some young person in the chat can probably Google this real quick. I believe that when you look at all the races, the social construct of race, Black families may be leading the bunch, if you will, with fatherless single parent households, and with the woman being the head of that house. But it happens in every race.
Right.
But we may be leading the bunch. Now, again, don't quote me on it. So again, the person who could do it real fast, a Google search real quick, but the bottom line is, we know that this is a more of a modern thing, because back in the day, that was unheard of.
Right. That's correct.
So, right. And so we've taken church out of the home. Right. And I think that's a big part of it too. And then all different things that have happened, and also to laws that, separated Black men and women. When we talk about the laws that were created for assistance, like government assistance, when to receive government assistance, you can't have the man in the house. That's by design.
By design. Yes.
Exactly. So there's many things that put us behind the 8 ball to help separate us. And then we just did some things on our own, right? That separated us as well. So the combination of that, and then other modern things happening, has perpetuated that particular situation. So now, if you don't have the father in the home raising boys, and that's what the boys see. Well, I can have children, but I don't have to be in the home.
Right.
We are how we're raised, right? Not that we can't change and be different, but what's planted young is really important. It stays with us. And then we need to have someone, if my dad is not there, who's showing me the way as a man. Because I don't care how much women say, I got to be the mother and the father. A woman cannot teach a boy how to be a man. No more than a man can teach a girl how to be a woman.
Right. Absolutely. I agree with him.
And what you're thinking is around that. I got to play both roles because I'm the only one here.
Right.
But it's actually sound what you're saying. I get it, but what you're saying is not actually factual.
Right.
So, that's a lot of what we're contending with. And if we were to solve that problem, even more than poverty, if we were to solve that problem, we wouldn't have so much poverty.
Right.
And all the other things that we're seeing in our community with our young Black brothers and sisters dying in the streets, right? And turning to, drug dealing and other types of street crimes in order to make a way, and dropping out of school, because we had Dr. Randolph Walters on the show and talking about the father's presence in the home and what it does for girls, as they girls and grow up to be women. And he is also an expert on fathers raising boys, right? And how that matters, right? You're living proof of it as your father, as you are a father, right? That trend is still with you today, and that's why you are still with your wife and raising a son to do the same. And that's a strong family. It doesn't mean it's a perfect family, because there's no such thing, but that's a strong family. And the family is the strength of the community. So when the family breaks down, the community breaks down.
Yes.
That's right.
So I must have been right. I must have been right when I answered your question. Then you're in agreement. His family.
Yes.
I won.
You won twice. Therapy and family.
Yeah. All right.
You will be back.
Yeah, all
That's
right.
right.
Yes,
That's
thank
right.
you.
Yeah, there's one last comment that Netta said about what can Black men do to help with what's going on in the community. She said, what about community meetings? Now that's old school, but it's a good idea.
Yes.
But I'm saying community meetings are so old school, but there is a place for it.
Right.
Because also too, you can have community meetings online now.
Right.
As well as in person. So we got to figure this thing out.
Right.
And I'm saying that, not just in word, but in application. I want to figure that out and have conversations behind the scenes, because the bottom line is, God gave me this vision for this show and all the other shows that are on my platform to affect change. It's not for us to sit up here and just talk and just talk. No, we have to talk to come up with the solutions. Right. So, but if we don't talk, we never get to the solutions. Right. So behind the scenes, is the groundswell of the community that we're trying to build through these shows to affect change in families and in communities. But it starts with the mindset change, right? That's the therapist, right? That starts with the mind. It's hard to change a mindset.
Yes.
But repetition is the mother of learning. The more we say it, the more it gets in us. And now it's like, you know what? Now I'm changing. Now I want to do something different. Yes. Now you want to do something different. Let's do that. Now that your mind has shifted. Right. So that's what we're trying to do, is help shift the minds to family, community, Christ being the cornerstone of all of this. Right. And our faith in Christ with what our God assignment is to make this happen. This is not how God wants us to live. By no means is this how he wants us to live. So he has people in place such as us to bring his vision through us to manifestation in the earth in order to affect change, to build kingdom on earth as it is in heaven.
All right.
I'm here tonight.
You trying to take an offer?
Yes.
Trying to get that offer. Trying to preach that offer.
All right, I'm gonna stop talking because I could just, I can go on. But
it was just so good tonight. This was just so good. I feel so bad that Kitty didn't get a chance to come on.
I know.
Thank you. You did such. It was just, we just had such a good time. You got another comment.
Yes. Honey Bunches says, thank you, ladies. Thank you, Uncle Aaron. Great show tonight. Thank you, Honey Bunches.
Thank you. Thank you.
Aaron, thank you so much for joining us tonight. It was a pleasure. It was my honor to finally meet you. I've been talking to me about you for years and years and years. So it's so that to meet you.
Thank you so much.
Yes.
All right. And hopefully you'll be a guest again.
I look forward to it. I'll be ready for those big hot item questions that you hit me with. I'll be ready.
Hey, listen, if we bring you on again, you're gonna have to go help Kenneth set up his.
I'm gonna have him sitting right beside me.
Right.
We're gonna be on one screen.
That'll work.
Okay, that'll work.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Thank you.
All right, Sandra Lee, I thank you so much for joining me again, as you do every Wednesday. I appreciate you. I love you. And so we're taking a 1 week hiatus off next week because Labor Day is Monday. So we're taking the week off. So Sandra and I will be back in 2 weeks. And tonight ends our The Black Man series. So we're going to come back with something new in 2 weeks. So you guys have a happy and safe holiday next week. And we will see you back here in 2 weeks. God bless you. Have a God evening. Shalom.
Thank you.
Bye, Aaron.
Bye-bye.
Bye, Aaron.